Okay, so let's talk about sports betting. Ever since that big Supreme Court decision back in 2018, it's just, well, it's everywhere, right? But here's the thing you might not realize. What looks like one simple bet is actually two completely different games being played all at once.
I mean, think about it. You're watching a game, you're scrolling on your phone, you're listening to a podcast, and bam! There's another ad, another promo code, another push to get in on the action. It's not just part of the sports world anymore. For a lot of people, it is the sports world.
And you know what? All that noise is definitely working. Pew Research actually looked at this and found that just a few years ago, only about 56% of people even knew sports betting was legal. Now, that number shot up to 63%. So yeah, it's not some niche thing anymore. It's totally mainstream.
But what's really happening when you tap that Bet Now button? Because behind that simple click, there's this whole other world. It's complex, it's fascinating, and honestly, it can be pretty ruthless. Once you see how it works, you'll never look at a bet the same way again.
Okay, so this is really the core of what we're going to break down here. The entire betting universe, it's basically split into two camps. You've got the squares, that's most people, and then you've got the sharps. And believe me, the sharps are playing a totally different game.
So what's the big difference? Well, think of a square as the casual fan. You know, you're betting for the fun of it, maybe throwing a few bucks on your favorite team, putting together a crazy parlay just for the thrill. That's the vast majority of us. But a sharp? Man, for them, this isn't a hobby. It's a full-time job. They're not using gut feelings, they're using complex data models and algorithms to find a tiny edge, a value in the line. They're hunting for long-term profit, not a one-time score.
So that begs the question, right? If you're a pro, a sharp, and you're all about the data, how do you actually know if you're good? It can't just be about winning or losing any single bet. I mean, anyone can get lucky once. There has to be a better way to measure skill.
And there is. The secret sauce for the pros is something called closing line value, or CLV. The best way to think about it is like their final report card. It's not about if you won or lost the bet, it's about this. Did you get a better price, better odds, than the final odds available right before the game started? In other words, did you beat the market at its most efficient point? It's about proving you're smarter than the market, not just luckier.
And this is such a key insight into their whole mindset. It's all about the process, not the results of one single game. If your process is good enough to consistently beat the closing line, you know you have a real edge. Because at the end of the day, skill is what makes you money long-term. Luck? Well, luck always runs out.
Now get this, because it's kind of mind-bending. You could literally lose 10 bets in a row. 10! But if you beat the closing line on every single one of those bets, in the world of the sharps, you're still considered a winner. You're still a sharp. Why? Because they trust the math. They know that over the long haul, that small edge will turn into real profit. It's inevitable.
Okay, so we've got these sharps who have figured out how to get a real edge. So what about the other side? How do the sportsbooks, the house, fight back? Well, they have a way, and it's a pretty powerful and frankly a very controversial one. The term they use in the industry is gubbing. It's a weird word, but here's what it means. The sportsbook doesn't just ban you. Nah, that's too obvious. Instead, they soft ban you. They'll limit your bets to like $5, or they'll cut you off from all the good promotions. And here's the absolute key. You're not getting gubbed because you're winning. You're getting gubbed because you're betting too smart. So what are the red flags that get you on their radar? It's all about your betting patterns. Are you consistently beating the closing line? That's a huge one. Do you only ever bet when there's a special promo? Or do you pounce on tiny pricing mistakes? These are the footprints of a sharp, and the sportsbooks have powerful algorithms designed to sniff them out.
And you have to understand, from the sportsbook's point of view, it's not personal, it's just business. Their entire model is built to make money from recreational bettors, the squares. A sharp is basically a leak in their profit machine. So gubbing, that's just their automated system plug in the hole. It's pure risk management.
So, okay, you've got this secret war going on between the sharps and the books. But what does all of this mean for the rest of us, for society? Because as betting has gone from the shadows to the mainstream, some really big, really serious concerns are starting to pop up.
And you can actually see this shift in public opinion. Again, look at this Pew Research data. Just a few years ago, about a third of Americans thought legal betting was bad for society. Now, that's jumped to 43%. We're seeing the exact same trend for people who think it's bad for sports itself. It feels like the honeymoon phase is definitely over.
And if you're wondering why people are getting worried, here's a cold, hard number for you. Since 2018, we've seen more than 20 pro athletes in the major US leagues get disciplined for breaking gambling rules.
This isn't some theoretical what-if scenario. It's a real problem, and it's happening at the very top.
And that right there leads us to the biggest, most dangerous risk of all. When this much money gets this close to the game, it threatens the one thing sports can't survive without: integrity. The fundamental belief that what we're watching on the field is pure, unscripted competition. And man, the year 2025 really threw gasoline on this fire. It was just one scandal after another. First, you had the whole shocking situation with Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, sentenced for stealing millions to pay off gambling debts. Then, boom, an NBA player and a coach get indicted in a betting investigation. And by the fall, we're hearing about MLB pitchers actually rigging tiny in-game micro bets. This isn't just a threat anymore, it's a full-blown crisis, and it's speeding up.
So, as you can imagine, all of this has kicked off a huge debate. On one side, you have some of the politicians who push for legalization saying, hey, the system is working, we're catching people. But on the other side, you have voices in Congress and elsewhere saying, no way, the state-by-state approach is a total mess, and it's not strong enough to protect the integrity of the games we love.
Which brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? Is all of this just a bit of harmless fun? Something that makes watching sports more exciting? Or is it slowly becoming a genuine threat to the very soul of sports?